Welcome to Subramani. We're going to talk about HDFC Bank and the Hdfc Ltd merger. I think Mr. Deepak Parekh explained it very well, saying when the father retires, the son takes over. It has happened, and it has happened well. For a lot of us, it is going to be nostalgic, because I've been a shareholder of Hdfc Ltd since 1980, at least 80 for sure, maybe a little earlier than that also. Believe it or not, it used to quote at a discount to its face value. So face value was 100 rupees, and it used to be available at 97, 98 rupees, and it used to yield a very good, it used to be a good dividend yield share, dull, boring share. And even in 1981, 82, when when a friend was joining, maybe in 83, I asked him, why are you joining a government company with a name like corporation, etc. I was just graduating. I didn't understand that it was a private sector bank, because we used to see IFC Washington giving them loans and things like that. I actually thought it was quasi sarkari, but it was not. Great company. And you have heard all the good things about the merger, saying, okay, two strong companies are coming together, two very strong board driven companies, or board supervised companies, very well managed, and both market leaders in their field, and so a lot of good things, right? The shareholding of Hdfc Ltd becomes completely public, so it enters the MSCI. It enters the MSCI as a big entrant, right? It's almost like making your debut as a captain. Normally does not happen in any game. It takes time for you to grow up, but yes, this company will have a great weightage in the MSCI index. In the Nifty also, it will be about 15%, which is huge. So something will have to be done to increase the weights of others. There is also the problem that SEBI and IRDA tell companies that they cannot hold more than X percentage in one scrip. So they will not be able to hold this at all, simply because it's too, or they will have to hold only 9%. They will not be able to hold 15%, which is the benchmark index. So you will be very far away from the benchmarks, even involuntarily. Voluntarily you can stay away from the benchmark, but so that is going to create some problem for the fund managers. Now let me tell you, of course there are chances of cross-selling can happen. A lot of Hdfc Ltd customers are not customers of the bank. Many of the bank customers, of course, would have been approached for a home loan, Hdfc Bank being the more aggressive player, but Hdfc Ltd may not have approached them. Hdfc Ltd may not have approached them as aggressively as the bank will approach, whether it is selling mutual funds to them, whether it is selling insurance. They have their own captive insurance, they have their own captive mutual fund, right? So all those things. They got educational loans. Hdfc Ltd has a subsidiary which specializes in educational loans that will start being sold through the bank. What does the bank really get? The bank gets two parts of the balance sheet. I mean, they get the whole balance sheet, which is in two parts. One is the mortgage business. The mortgage business is not too great, in the sense that it's not so difficult for the bank to build, and it also gets the treasury. It gets some good people in the treasury who can manage a real estate fund or a mutual fund, etc. Typically the treasury size of Hdfc Ltd would dwarf some mutual funds in terms of size. So will that become a separate company? Will all that be carved out and put it into the AMC and handled? I really don't know. We will have to wait to see some of those things. We're getting a lot of branches, and the people sitting in those branches. Now comes the catch. Culturally speaking, Hdfc Ltd and Hdfc Bank are two completely different animals, completely different. I mean, they belong to the same farms, same series. Both are cats, but one is like a tiger and one is like a, I wouldn't even say jaguar, maybe a lion, right? They're all cat family. but their people are very different. So how many of the HDFC Limited people will be able to survive in the HDFC Bank atmosphere? It's a question which nobody has asked, because when there is a merger, it is not just the balance sheets which are getting merged, it is also the people who are getting merged. There is nothing, no great technology which HDFC Bank is getting from HDFC Limited. In fact, it was a company more challenged for technology. There was always this question of after Mr. Deepak Parekh, who in HDFC Limited? That question has been answered very well, because I'm sure HDFC Bank has a better succession planning, succession management process in place. Shashidhar Jagdishan is going to have his hands full. Shashidhar Jagdishan is going to need 3 managing directors. One, Shashi himself to manage the banking portion. He is going to need somebody almost equivalent to handle the technology of the bank. Bank is going to spend a lot of money on technology. And also the technology supervision of HDFC Mutual Fund, HDFC Life Insurance. Technology is quite a challenge in HDFC Mutual Fund, so some of those things it's going to require a lot of attention. And of course there is the people merger to handle all that. So right, so there is banking, there is technology, there is people, and of course there is huge treasury, because the HDFC Limited treasury handling is going to be difficult. So my heart goes out to Shashi Jagdishan in terms of the work that he has got to do over the next few months, 8-9 months, when of course he will have the luck of the guidance of the greatest Indian wealth creator, Mr. Deepak Parekh. Now getting all this act together is not going to be very easy. You will see an exodus of personnel from HDFC Limited who will accept that they will not be able to survive. So some of that will go. A lot of real estate will be released. Will all the branches of HDFC Limited become HDFC Bank branches? Answer is no. Unless the bank unless the HDFC Limited branch is of a particular size. If it is 400 square foot, there is no way how the bank is going to really use it. They have some real small offices, and in some locations they are very, very close to each other. So will that also become HDFC Bank branch? One has to wait and see. HDFC Bank may not require so many branches because they are too close to each other and because they are spending a lot on technology. So yes, all the good things that they can cross sell, that the weightage will go up, that it will become a huge giant, I mean maybe 2 times the size of ICICI and all that, but the cultural part of the merger managing is not going to be very simple. It is not just taking 2 balance sheets and telling a couple of chartered accountants or 10 chartered accountants to sit and just merge. I mean, mergers and acquisition accounting is the easiest part. Looking after the people, making sure that they integrate well, that is going to be the biggest challenge. I mean, and technology, they're really not getting much, so they will have to have their own, I mean, technology merger may not be so much of a challenge. The thing is, HDFC Limited was a very simple company for 90% of its people. It was a simple mortgage company, right? So everybody knew the product. You right from the doorman to the chairman, everybody would have known what is the current rate at which they're lending, what is the floating rate, what is the fixed rate. Whereas HDFC Bank is a far more complicated company. It has got far more products. It would have credit cards, debit cards, forex cards, home loan. I mean, home loan was just one small portion of HDFC Bank's product offering. It will have savings bank, current account, fixed deposits, right? Exhaustive range of products. So will the sales people of HDFC Limited be able to cross sell and sell all these products? Will they fit into the culture? I have my doubts. So you will see an exodus of people. I think nobody above 45 in HDFC Limited will be able to survive the HDFC Bank culture. People below that will bide for time. They will come here, they will come to the bank, and then they will not like the culture. I'm not even saying they may not like the culture. They will not like the culture. The pace at which HDFC Bank runs, it does not even pause for breath. Even pausing for breath is considered to be wrong. So the pace at which they run, the pace at which they open new branches, how they grow, how many times they talk to the client, and how aggressive and pushy they are. You will find a lot of HDFC Bank customers who are not happy. not happy with the credit card, not happy with the charges, not happy with the way the demat account has been handled, you name it, and they will find. You will not find a single customer of HDFC Limited who is unhappy with the service. Yes, dull, boring service. You may have to wait for 10 minutes extra in the HDFC Limited branch because the printer is not working or some shit like that, but they will not have big cribs. For many people my generation, which means who are now in their 50s and 60s, or maybe somebody who's even in the 70s, HDFC Limited was the go-to place for taking a home loan. So they are very fond memories. In fact, all the fond memories of HDFC Limited have been passed on to HDFC Mutual Fund, HDFC Life, and HDFC Bank. That cannot be said of HDFC Bank, but HDFC Bank in total number of customers will have far higher number of customers than HDFC Limited. So looking after all this merger, looking after the technology, looking after what all these people have to sell and cross-sell is not going to be very easy. So Sashidhar Jagdishan, my best of luck to you, and I would have liked it very much if this merger had happened 3-4 years ago. Simply from a very selfish point of view, I would have loved to see Mr. Deepak Parekh as chairman of this big, hairy, giant entity. Unfortunately, that is not going to be. So India's greatest wealth creator, make no mistake, Mr. Deepak Parekh is an employee of HDFC Limited. He's not the promoter. Don't compare him to Mukesh Ambani and Uday Kotak in terms of net wealth and all that. He's nowhere near that. Of course, he's a very rich man. There is no doubt about that. But that wealth has not been created by owning the companies. Yes, he must have got his share of shares. He must have got his share of ESOP. All that is fine, but he's not the owner. He's just created a humongous amount of wealth. Let me repeat, humongous amount of wealth for people who have been shareholders like from 1980 onwards, and then gave shares of HDFC Bank at par to shareholders of HDFC Limited. So many of those people would be sitting on 800, 900 shares of HDFC Bank just because they were shareholders of HDFC Limited. Now they will get more shares of HDFC Bank and they will no longer have shares of HDFC Limited. So little nostalgic for people like us. But having known people in both the cultures, I mean, some of them are dead, some of them are have retired. So I really don't know many people now in both the entities and therefore in the merged entity. But it will be an interesting space to watch. I think nobody has spoken about the cultural shock that is going to happen with the merger. Well, that's going to happen, and it's a nice place to watch. And without the help of senior people like Mr. Deepak Parekh, it's Sashidhar Jagdishan's baby. He will have to handle it, and I'm sure he'll do a great job. If you're a shareholder, what do you have to do? Let's come to that. You don't have to do anything. Just sit back, relax. HDFC Bank will continue to grow. There will be 6 months when it does nothing. There will be maybe 2 years when it does nothing, or at least does nothing in the equity market. But one day suddenly it will show you a 20% jump over a period of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then all the cribs that you had in the last 2 years, it did nothing, will be wiped out. So don't get into active management of HDFC Bank shares, or there will be no HDFC Limited. So don't try doing that, or even if you were to do it with 200, 300 shares, not with the whole holding that you have. If you don't have it, buy it, hold it for a pretty long period of time. You'll definitely do well. I have benefited by it for the last 40 years. I do not know whether the next 40 years is going to be same. So, but that is not my call. That's my daughter's call. Thank you. Bye.